Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel. It's no secret that I certainly believe that my XRP will be worth a fortune in the future. I do believe that is the most probable outcome. And I'm willing to bet that most of you listening feel that your XRP will also be worth an absolute fortune in the future. I think we probably, by and large, have that in common. But consider this. Your XRP fortune, should it occur, could earn you way more than you think. Because once you have that fortune, that's not the end of the story. If anything, that's the beginning of the story if you're thinking long term. Or you could just act like, your typical idiot lottery winner, because most of them end up going bankrupt. You could just spend it all on everything. But that's not what I'm going to do. You know what I'm going to do with my XRP? Well, I'm going to share that with you in this latest Moon Family Sedan room temperature jam. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so what got me thinking about this topic was a tweet from XRP community member Frecky, and he tagged me in this tweet. Now, Frecky has been in crypto since 2011, so he's definitely an OG, you know what I'm saying? He literally was purchasing Bitcoin in 2011, and he happens to actually work in finance. And so he's savvy, and he understands lots of things that maybe the typical investor out there just doesn't get. And he wrote the following. And he's using big numbers here, but I'm gonna use my own number in just a minute. I want to go through what he says. He is using a big number here to start, but it's not crazy either. So he writes $10 million with 7% annualized long-term rate of return. He says, so 60% equity and 40% bond portfolio. And then he shares this screen grab. Here, I'll just make that full screen. And he says, and I'll just note what it says for those of you not looking at the screen. So this is basically just a compound interest calculator, and I'm going to pull one up separately on a live website for this video, and we're going to play with some numbers. It's going to be fun. But he plugged in a starting amount of $10 million. And he's letting that compound annually at a rate of 7%, which is low or reasonable depending on a particular factor, which I will get to in a minute. But he plugged in 7%, and he's letting it grow for 30 years. So after 30 years at 7% annual returns, that $10 million turns into $76,122,550. That's right. From $10 million to a little over $76 million. Or you could just blow it all on hats, because why the hell not? Extra bonus points, if you know what reference that is. It's a movie reference, if you know what that is. But he then wrote, the magic of long-term investing, globally diversified, and being patient. Very low stress if you are experienced/disciplined. So when you make wealth in crypto, don't be greedy. Lower the risk. And then he says, take 90% out of crypto. Oops, I broke the thread. Sorry about that. 1 sec here. This is how I've kept wealth from crypto. Take 90% out of crypto, diversify into stocks, bonds, real estate, and uncorrelated alternative investments. Then take 10% of cash. Wait to dollar cost average the bear market. Then try to 10x that 10% cash. Once you make the big money, lower the risk. Then he tagged me in there too. So thank you very much, Frecky, for tagging me. That is absolutely correct, and not enough people say stuff like this. And it is true. So for me, what I'm going to do, I reserve the right to take some of my XRP profits and put it back into crypto, but I'm probably not going to do that. And I've talked about this before. It's been a long time since I brought that topic up. But probably what I'll do is after the market crashes, after a big bubble forms, I'll probably just take all the new money that I earn and throw it in. Because I'm certainly going to invest in XRP. Like, say I sell all of my XRP, doesn't mean that I don't think it's going to be viable for decades in the future. It just means I need to diversify further and reduce my risk exposure. So even if I sell all of my XRP, and I might, it doesn't mean I wouldn't buy back in. In fact, after the market crashes, it's a virtual certainty I'd buy back in here. But the point is, taking that money after you earn it and reinvesting it is the smart thing to do. And so it doesn't mean that you can't have fun. I mean, if you've got that kind of wealth, because I'm willing to look. We all have different targets for what we want to get out of XRP. Some of you may just want hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of you may want millions of dollars. But just consider this, just to use an easy number, and I'm not saying this is or isn't what I'm looking for, but just as a kind of a baseline, because I think that most of us recognize that the idea of getting $1 million out of a cryptocurrency is not a bonkers idea. Even in 2023, it's still not a bonkers idea. If you're patient enough and you put in the right amount, I totally doable. I firmly believe that anyway. So it's not financial advice. I'm not pretending like there's no risk. There's notable risk, high risk, I'd say. But I still believe that it's very within the realm of possibility. So here's a compound interest calculator that I pulled up, and I plugged in a starting amount of $1 million. So let's say that you make $1 million from XRP once it finally hits its new all-time high in interest price discovery. And I understand, depending on where you live on the planet, there could be taxes. For the purposes of this conversation, I'm just going to pretend there's no taxes. And for some of you, depending on where you live on the planet, there might not be. For me, there would be. But just set that aside because I'm trying to make a broader point and it doesn't matter. Let's just say you have $1 million from XRP. Well, if you let that grow for 10 years, so like you don't touch it for 10 years, and you have an interest rate of 10%, then after 10 years, that $1 million becomes almost $2.6 million. You can see the exact number on your screen for those of you that care to look. From $1 million to 2.6 at an interest rate of 10%. And that's why I started the video by noting, your XRP fortune could be way more valuable than you're thinking here. So you can take that fortune and put it in something that is less risky so that you have a higher level of confidence that you're going to keep it, not only keep it, but see it grow substantially. That's the way that I'm looking at things. And it doesn't mean you can't have fun. In fact, you could, at that point, if you have that, you're set. You're good to go. You could literally take all of the money that you earn from working, because let's be real, you're going to stop working. Like, you literally just going to hang out on the beach every day for the rest of your life and not do anything, because most humans would not find that, to be fulfilling in life, to be honest with you. Some of it, sure. That's a whole different conversation, though. But you could even just take new money that you come in. Maybe if you start a passion project and you would start earning income from that, start your own business because it's enjoyable to do something. Like, you can do whatever you want with your life at this point, obviously. But I'm just saying, if you're earning income, you could take 100% of those profits and blow it all on hats or whatever the hell you want to. You could have Lambo time, right? Drinking Cristal on the moon. Do they still do that? I just remember that from MTV Cribs. Remember that? All the rappers with the Cristal in like early 2000s, mid 2000s. Do whatever the hell you want, though. Dream it, you dreamer, right? But this idea that you're just going to, have you thought about this? What are you going to do with your XRP profits? Are you literally going to spend it all? Are you going to set yourself up so that you don't have to worry about money ever again for the rest of your life? And look, you could earn more than, your profit could be higher than this, and maybe it ends up being lower than this, but it's substantial. And so the way that I'm looking at this is, I've already got a certain net worth, and I'm 39 years old. Now, I'm not rich. I'm a regular person just like you, but I know that I have accumulated like a higher net worth than the typical 39-year-old. I know that because that information is publicly available. So I'm happy with where I am right now. And I believe that I am going to be rich in the future, especially if I keep going down this path. And especially true if XRP does what I hope and think it's going to do in terms of hitting a new all-time high. So for me, what I'm going to do is even if you think $1 million is low, and some of you might be thinking that for XRP, I'm just saying, for me, my target might be lower than most people's, and I'm not saying mine is or isn't $1 million. I'm just using it because it's an easy round number. But, I'm factoring in all of the rest of my net worth and where it is, and the fact that I'm going to continue to earn money. I'm not going to stop doing stuff to earn money. I'm 39 years old. I'd be bored not doing stuff. I want to, it's quote unquote work, but it's stuff that I enjoy. You know what I mean? So I'm going to keep earning money. So I can just let that XRP ride, and then I'm going to feel extra good, extra safe, and then I could spend all of my salary. I have a few different revenue streams. I could literally spend all of that easily and go to Lambo Town and all the rest of the stuff, So I can still do that. And I'm sure you out there too, depending on what your goals are and what you're looking for, you could do all sorts of different things along those lines. It's certainly possible. And so you got to be thinking about the next step. Like once you get your mega profit, life-changing wealth from XRP, because I think that it's possible to get there anyway. We'll see what happens. But what are you going to do with it? Now, as far as the interest rate that I put in here at 10%, I want to justify what I'm doing, because Frecky said 7%. I plugged in 10%, and I want to explain the difference here, because both are reasonable. That it puts different outputs with different meanings. That's basically it. And so I just did a quick Google search to pull up some data on this. came across this website that notes the following. The U.S. stock market has a long history of producing double-digit yearly returns. The average yearly return for the S&P 500 is 10.331% over the last 100 years. So, and here's a chart for those of you that care to look at your screen here. So, for the last 100 years, again, a little over 10% return. But once you factor in inflation, well, that eats away at it. So if you're talking about factoring in inflation and you want to know what the true purchasing power would be, then you'd want to plug in Frecky's number of 7%. So you can see here, after 100 years, 10.331% returns. That's the stock market average return per year with dividends reinvested. And then the separate column here notes that over that same time period, the returns would be 7.191%. That would be the average return with dividends reinvested and inflation adjusted. So when Frecky shared that $10 million turning over 30 years into $76 million roughly, that's factoring in inflation. So my number did not factor in inflation. So if you want to factor in inflation, you can change my 10% into 7%. So again, that $1 million I shared with you, after 10 years, that would be almost $2.6 million. Now, if you change the interest rate to 7%, which is the number that Frecky used, that just shows you what it would be worth in terms of purchasing power, factoring in typical inflation, which is not what we've seen recently, but still, again, it's just a little mental exercise, effectively. And so if you change the 10% into 7% like Frecky did, that 2.6 million would be a little bit closer to $2 million. So again, after 10 years, factoring in inflation, your purchasing power just doubled, for going from 1 million to about $2 million. So you'd actually have more dollars than that, but it's just in today's dollars, it'd be closer to $2 million. That's insane, though. So then factor in what if it's 20 years, though? And this is where it starts to get fun. And I'm going to put it back at 10%, just so you can see what the real dollars would be. And then just understand in terms of purchasing power would be less because we're factoring, once you factor in inflation, but I'm going to put it back at 10%. So now we have $1 million, your XRP profits, let's say it's $1 million after 20 years at 10%. Let's calculate it. And it would be a little over $6.7 million. So if you have profits of $1 million just from XRP, it doesn't have to just be $1 million. Depends on how you treat it. Are you going to blow it all? You're going to go to Lambo Town drinking Crystal on the Moon with the rappers from the mid-2000s? Or what are you going to do? Because you could turn that $1 million into $6.7 million. And that's just one aspect of your life. Now, I'm willing to bet that most of you out there are like me and hold a bunch of different cryptocurrencies. So for me, I'm looking at my own personal situation, and I'm sure you all are considering your own personal situations. So you've got your existing net worth, whatever that may be. You've got your XRP, and hypothetically, let's just say it's $1 million. But then you also have your other cryptocurrencies, which are probably going to be worth a lot more in the future, and some probably go to zero. I think some of mine I may never end up selling. They'll probably just go to zero. That's fine. I just need some wins. I don't need all of them to win. But once you factor all of that in, and then the fact that you still have an opportunity to earn income, it starts to get real ridiculous real quick, and then you just have insane, life-changing generational wealth. That's the game, and that's how to play it, in my opinion. That's how I intend to go about this, just in a general sense. So that's why, for me, I risked more up front to have more XRP than most people hold. And that means I'm going to feel comfortable selling it at a level of maybe $5, $6, $7, $8. I'll start kind of easing out of it when we get up to that range. And that will be life-changing for me. That absolutely will be. So once I get it, though, again, I'm not going to blow it. I'm probably going to spend none of it. I'm just going to reinvest it in something that's perceived to be less risky. It's less exciting, less volatile. But that doesn't mean I'll be done with crypto either. I'll just put new money into that because I want something that's more of a sure thing. That's the reason I'm going that route. And so again, like I said at the outset of the video, your already life-changing XRP earnings could be worth way more than that. If you could think only $1 million or only $500,000 or whatever your target is, only a few $100,000. Well, what's that going to be if you hold it for a decade? So it all depends on what you want. If you literally want to retire and do nothing the rest of your life, well, okay. I don't think that's a way to have it, because people need to have meaning in life, and that means doing stuff. That's why people don't do well typically historically after they retire. There's all sorts of data on that. That's why I'm never going to actually retire. I'm always going to want to do stuff, but it can be passion projects. It's not, it doesn't have to be a job where you feel like you're a slave, where you're stuck in a cube all day or stuff like that. I mean, that works respectfully. You're doing stuff, you're providing for yourself and your family, but I'm just saying, if you want something different, that would be the point where you can literally take a little bit of a risk and launch something that you're genuinely to your core interested in. So that it opens up that type of opportunity. But I'll tell you something I'm not going to do is, just be ridiculous and buy some ridiculous house that, I couldn't fine, you can make the monthly payments, but I'm not going to buy stuff and take out a bunch of debt for stuff that I really shouldn't be taking on debt for. Like I'm anti-debt, and maybe I'm a little bit more weird than most people listening on that, and that's fine. I am anti-debt. I don't buy cars unless I can afford them, for example. I don't buy anything unless I can afford it. The only exception that maybe I'd be willing to make is a reasonable home. That's pretty much it. So I'm like Dave Ramsey on that front. I am anti-debt because that's the safest way to, ensure that you have, financial success over a lifespan. Because I mean, you can think about how people, like, even purchasing cars. That's just like the idea of people purchasing, people making of modest means, whether you're making 40, 50, 60, 70,000. Not that that's bad money, but like if you're making that much money and you're buying a $50,000 car, are you sure that's a good idea? You know what I mean? You can afford a monthly payment. I get that. But what if instead, and then there's like 7-year loans now, which are ridiculous. So imagine this. Imagine if instead of having a loan on a car for 7 years at $500-$600 a month, whatever it is now, it's probably around there, maybe more. What if instead you saved all of that money over 7 years? After that 7 years, you could actually go out and buy the car. But you know what I'm willing to bet? I'm willing to bet that if instead of paying that monthly payment, you drive a beater for 7 years instead, after the 7 years, I'm willing to bet that you would not want to put that money into a brand new car. Because separating from that lump sum all at once for a car, which is a depreciating asset, would be painful. So when you take on debt, it tricks your mind into thinking, this is reasonable, I can afford a monthly payment. Well, you can, but is it the wisest financial move? And so but if you so look at the way that I'm telling you now. So now consider that you have the lump sum because you didn't take on the debt. You treat that money differently. But if you're piecemeal paying off a loan, month after month after month for 7 years, you'd be willing to do it. That's what people are willing to do. But man, you're losing a lot. And all of that money instead could have been invested. And the magic of compound interest is a very, very real thing. It's the 8th wonder of the world, right? It's touted as that, and I agree. So anyway, I'm just saying it's good to respect money, and I'm not a very spendy person. I've always been very fiscally conservative. I'm very responsible with money. I live substantially beneath my means. If you saw me and what my life situation is, you might think I'm not doing that well, and that is not true. I'm doing substantially better than the typical 39-year-old, but you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it, other than the fact that I have a Maserati. Other than that. But that's a used car. I bought that used. It already depreciated by like 66%. And it's about the same as when I bought it a year and a half ago in terms of value. So even that was reasonable, because you got to have a little fun in life. But that's a used car, and I paid for it with cash. So, because, I mean, that car, it's a Maserati Gran Turismo. I mentioned this one other time, but I bought it used. It was an 8-year-old car at the time. It was $142,000 new, a little over that, and I bought it for $54,000. And I can just sell that. But look, if you can't buy it just in life in general, if you can't buy it with cash that you actually have, maybe don't do it. The only exception, I'm with Dave Ramsey on this, the only exception would perhaps be a home. And so I know this kind of broadened out to a more of a conversation about just kind of finance in general, but I love talking about this stuff. It's interesting because it's still related to crypto. It's like, what are you actually going to do with your XRP? So, it's not a one size fits all. I'm just sharing with you my thoughts and my perspective. You can go do whatever you want. I'm not telling you to buy or sell or hold anything. You can treat your money however you want. That's fine. I just think it's fun and interesting to talk about this. So I wanted to share some of my thoughts on this because I am going to turn what I have and what I'm going to earn and all my profits in crypto into generational wealth. That's my plan. What's your plan? Are you going to just spend it? Have you thought about this? Where are you going to put it? It doesn't mean you can't have fun. You can still go buy stuff. Like you can buy really expensive stuff. It's okay. Like you have some fun if you've got that kind of wealth. But do you have a big plan for the long haul to turn it into something completely ridiculous? Because that's what I'm going for. So anyway, let me know what you think. It really is a fun topic of conversation. I haven't talked about anything like this in a really long time. And since Frecky tagged me, it got me thinking along these lines again. And I always think it's a fun conversation. Everybody's got all sorts of different perspectives. So if you completely disagree with me, that's fine. Tell me what you think. How are you going to approach all of this? But the opportunity for XRP, it's very real. I believe it's coming. I believe that our XRP is going to be worth an absolute fortune in the future. I don't think that it's some sort of pipe dream. It's not like hoping you win the lottery. This is a real thing. And so, of course, it's a factor of risk tolerances. How much do you hold? How long are you going to wait? And so it's not a certainty for everybody, obviously, and there's high risk in all this. Like I said, I'll say it one more time, it's very high risk what we're doing investing in crypto. But for me, it's a calculated risk, and I do understand the risk. I know what I'm doing here, and if I lose it all, fine. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to get really ridiculous, and it's going to be really fun. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.